Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the shocking possibility that young Rocco Falconeri might stumble upon devastating secrets that could unravel Willow Kane's carefully constructed facade and expose her dark deeds involving Drew Kane at General Hospital. The landscape of Port Charles is shifting dramatically as recent General Hospital spoilers suggest an unexpected turn of events that could see Rocco Falconeri becoming an inadvertent witness to Willow Kane's vengeful behavior toward Drew Kane. The tantalizing question on everyone's mind is whether this observant young man will ultimately piece together the disturbing truth behind Drew's mysterious stroke and the shooting that left him fighting for his life in a hospital bed. Rocco's strategic placement at General Hospital. The January 22 episode marked a significant milestone as viewers witnessed Rocco beginning his first official day of community service at General Hospital. What makes this development particularly intriguing is the deliberate choice by the show's writers to actually display these community service scenes on screen rather than simply mentioning them in passing or handling them off camera. This creative decision signals that something far more substantial is brewing beneath the surface. The production team rarely wastes precious airtime on mundane activities without purpose, especially during a period when General Hospital is juggling multiple explosive storylines that demand viewer attention. The fact that the show is investing screen time in depicting Rocco's presence at the hospital suggests the writers have mapped out a very specific trajectory for his character. Nobody is tuning in simply to watch Rocco performing routine hospital tasks like changing bedpans, restocking supply closets, or delivering meal trays to patients. The audience craves drama, intrigue, and revelations that shake the foundations of Port Charles. This strategic positioning of Rocco within the hospital's walls appears to be a calculated move designed to place him at the epicenter of forthcoming revelations. The show seems to be methodically establishing Rocco's regular presence at General Hospital for a very deliberate reason that will become crystal clear as events continue to unfold in the coming weeks. The intricate web of Willow's deception. With Rocco now firmly planted in the hospital environment, the natural question becomes how his storyline might intersect with the increasingly dark and complex narrative surrounding Willow. For weeks now, Willow has been masterfully executing what can only be described as the performance of a lifetime, playing the role of the devastated, heartbroken wife whenever there are witnesses present to observe her grief. Her public displays have been nothing short of Oscar-worthy, complete with trembling lips, glistening tears streaming down her cheeks, and a convincing portrayal of a woman torn apart by the tragedy that has befallen the man she supposedly loves. However, this carefully crafted image represents nothing more than an elaborate smokescreen designed to conceal her true emotions and sinister intentions. The reality behind Willow's mask is far more chilling and vindictive than anyone could imagine. Beneath her sorrowful exterior lies a woman consumed by rage and a burning desire for Drew to experience maximum suffering. This darker truth manifested itself during a revealing conversation with Nina, when Willow made that particularly telling comment about Drew receiving exactly the treatment he deserves. The venom barely concealed in those words hinted at the genuine feelings festering beneath her widow's weeds. The anticipated confrontation at Drew's bedside. As Drew gradually emerges from unconsciousness and begins the painful process of regaining awareness, Willow may seize the opportunity to deliver similar cutting remarks directly to her helpless victim. The scenario practically writes itself when one considers the power dynamics at play in such a situation. Picture this chilling scene, Willow standing at Drew's bedside, knowing full well that he is conscious enough to hear and comprehend her words but completely unable to respond, defend himself, or call for help. His body has become his prison and Willow holds all the power in this twisted relationship dynamic. It's remarkably easy to envision Willow abandoning all pretense of concern and instead launching into a cruel taunting session, relishing the control she wields over her immobilized target. In these private moments, Willow might transition into full-blown gloating mode, savoring every second of Drew's helplessness. She could methodically recount the events that led to his current condition, perhaps even providing explicit details about how she pumped those 2 bullets into his body without hesitation or remorse. She might describe the cold calculation behind her decision to use that syringe to induce the stroke that occurred shortly after the trial concluded, ensuring that Drew's suffering would be prolonged and profound. The illusion of safety and impunity. Given that Willow has thus far managed to evade any consequences for her heinous actions, she may feel emboldened to throw her apparent immunity in Drew's face. She could mockingly point out the delicious irony that while she orchestrated his downfall and nearly ended his life, he will be the one trapped in a damaged body paying an enormous price, while she walks free. Willow might elaborate on how perfectly her plan has unfolded, how the authorities have no evidence linking her to the crimes, and how the community views her as a victim rather than a perpetrator. She could describe the satisfaction she derives from watching him suffer while maintaining her spotless reputation in the eyes of Port Charles society. However, Willow's fatal flaw in this scenario would be her assumption of privacy and security. She might drop her carefully maintained guard completely, believing the hospital room to be a private sanctuary where she can speak freely without fear of discovery. But what if her assumption proves catastrophically wrong? Rocco's potential role is unwitting witness. This is precisely where Rocco's community service assignment becomes explosive and narratively essential. Imagine young Rocco going about his assigned duties, perhaps delivering supplies to nearby rooms or performing routine tasks in the corridor outside Drew's hospital room. What if Rocco happens to be in exactly the wrong place at exactly the right time, positioned just outside the door or around a corner where Willow cannot see him? The scenario of Rocco becoming an accidental eavesdropper carries enormous dramatic weight. As Willow's venomous words float through the partially open door or thin hospital walls, Rocco might freeze in place, his eyes widening in absolute shock and horror as he processes the stunning confession pouring from Willow's lips. The revelation that this woman, whom he likely knows through the interconnected web of Port Charles relationships, is actually responsible for shooting Drew and causing his stroke would be earth-shattering. The classic soap opera twist. Eavesdropping has served as a time-honored plot device in daytime television for decades, and it certainly wouldn't represent the first instance of a soap opera character accidentally overhearing information never intended for their ears. In fact, some of the most memorable and consequential storylines in General Hospital history have been triggered by characters learning secrets through accidental surveillance. The beauty of this particular setup lies in its simplicity and plausibility. Rocco has a legitimate reason to be present at the hospital at virtually any time, giving him natural access to areas where Willow might feel comfortable speaking freely. His youth might also work to his advantage, as adults sometimes fail to notice or dismiss the presence of younger people, not recognizing them as potential threats to their secrets. The weight of terrible knowledge. If Rocco indeed becomes privy to Willow's confession, he would face an incredibly difficult moral and emotional dilemma. The burden of such knowledge would be tremendous for anyone, but particularly for a young person still developing their understanding of complex ethical situations. Rocco would need to grapple with profound questions about duty, loyalty, justice, and the potential consequences of speaking up versus remaining silent. He might wrestle with uncertainty about whether he heard correctly, whether adults would believe him if he came forward, and what impact his revelation might have on the various people involved. The knowledge could eat away at him, affecting his sleep, his relationships, and his sense of security in the world. The extended hospital presence creates opportunities. The critical factor making this scenario increasingly likely is that Rocco will be logging substantial hours at General Hospital throughout the duration of his community service sentence. This extended presence creates multiple opportunities for him to observe Willow's behavior, notice inconsistencies between her public grief and private actions, and potentially witness additional incriminating moments. Each shift Rocco works represents another chance for him to become entangled in the dramatic events swirling around Drew's hospitalization and Willow's guilty conscience. The hospital environment itself, with its maze of corridors, patient rooms, supply closets, and areas where conversations might drift, provides the perfect setting for accidental discoveries and overheard confessions. The promise chain reaction. Perhaps most intriguing of all, General Hospital spoilers have explicitly stated that Rocco will set off a wild chain reaction during 2026, suggesting that his actions or discoveries will trigger a cascade of events affecting multiple characters and storylines. This teaser strongly supports the theory that Rocco might indeed become the catalyst that finally brings Willow's crimes to light. If Rocco does overhear Willow's confession and eventually decides to reveal what he knows, the ramifications would ripple through Port Charles like an earthquake. Willow could finally face the